That's how to create this hologram effect in DaVinci Resolve. Start by adding your videos to the timeline. Select them and convert them into a Fusion clip, which will create the necessary node structure. Go to the Fusion tab and remove the merge nodes and the background node, as we won't need them. Instead, add an image plane 3D node to each media in node. Simply copy, paste, and merge them with the merge 3D node. Next, we need a render 3D node to complete our 3D scene setup. This configuration is not final, but let's focus on creating the actual carousel first. Currently, we can't see much because all our videos are in the same plane. Leave the first layer as it is and move to the next one. In the image plane node, adjust the Y rotation by a meaningful value, then change the Z value in pivot to move this layer apart from the others, and now it should look something like this. Repeat this process for the remaining layers, rotating each by a different angle. Link the pivot values so that changing the first one affects all others. Right-click the Z value, select expression, and link it to the image plane node where you set the initial value, and when you're done, it should look like this. Next, let's round the edges. Add a rectangular mask to our input and mask the area you want to show. Since this will be the same for all layers, simply copy and paste the node to the others. Now let's add some blur or focus. You'll need a second merge 3D node for this, then add a camera 3D node to the composition. To apply focus, go to the render 3D node, select hardware renderer and enable accumulation effects. I prefer to work on lower quality for editing as my setup struggles with higher resolutions, but I'll change this before exporting. You should now see your output defocused. To fix this, go to the camera 3D node and adjust the parameters until the green focal plane aligns with the front video and your output looks correct. You might also want to add some glow to make it visually appealing. I like these settings, but feel free to customize them as you see fit. Now, let's animate the rotation inside the first merge node. If you try to rotate it now, it will look like this, because we also need to set the pivot here. So we'll adjust that to get it working properly. Then set some keyframes for rotation and smooth the splines for a smoother movement. If you wanted to rotate back and forth, it will look somewhat sine-shaped, where the distance between the highest and lowest points determines the speed of rotation. Now I'll add a media node and drag my video into it. This will layer the video on top of our animation, so we need to swap the background and foreground on this merge node to bring our hologram to the front. To make the hologram animation appear as if it's coming out of the phone, add a transform node. Align it to the final position where you want it to hover, then set keyframes for both size and position. Go to the first frame where you want it to appear and set additional keyframes, adjusting the position and size to 0. Don't forget to smooth your splines, and you can add more keyframes to make the hover effect more dynamic. Next, we can add a brightness node for a fade-in effect. Set keyframes for gain at the beginning and end of our animation, and it should look something like this. Finally, let's synchronize the rotation with the movement of the hand. To do this, reposition the keyframes in the Y rotation spline. Switch to the spline editor and adjust the keyframes to follow your movements, adding a slight rotation backwards for a bouncy effect. I'll stop on this video and make it look as if I'm clicking on it by animating the scale of this particular layer inside the corresponding image plane. And that's it!